Subculture Talk. I am your host, Pat626. I normally host Subculture Shock on Twitch and a variety of other places, and I get to play a lot of really cool bands, including my guest tonight, Esoterik. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Yeah, doing great.
So go ahead and introduce yourselves for the crowd real quick.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Brady.
And thank you very much, very first thing, for being on the show.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm like in your dining room or whatever, but I feel like I'm at Christmas dinner is what I feel like. It's very cozy. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
Pat, when you're here, you're family.
Oh.
There was that Olive Garden, but it sounded like an Olive Garden.
See, now you're reminding me that I can't eat pasta anymore, and life is sad.
You are in our cozy living room. And I am very happy you feel welcomed here. That is the entire essence of this space.
Oh, good. So, how I normally start these interviews off is I like to ask for what I call the supervillain origin story. So, kind of, how did each of you get into dark music in general, and then specifically performing said music?
Okay. Do you want to go first?
I'll let you go.
The first time I was introduced to like a darker style was whenever I was actually really pretty young, probably 11 or 12. My brother, I have 3 older brothers. My brother Kyle burned me a CD, and on the CD was Static X, Fear Factory. There was some Zach Wild and Black Label Society. He kind of just did a general overview of music, and I played that burn CD a lot and felt really drawn to like the heavier guitar tones. Mm-hmm. However, as I got older into my 20s, I had moved out to Los Angeles and I started going to a club called Bar Sinister.
Love that place.
Yeah. So Bar Sinister really changed the direction, because before I was into, is it technically like new metal? Would that be the technical term? Not the older, not like Black Sabbath, obviously not that, but like it's obvious, but like more so like Static X or like
metal, a little bit of industrial.
And you metal.
Kind of.
Yes.
I'm sorry. But so once I started going to Bar Sinister, I met a lot of people that broadened my horizon, and I got really interested in Joy Division and The Cure, Depeche Mode, like more so of like those fundamental bands, Susie Sue and the Banshees, things like that. And from there, Switchblade Symphony was the band that I discovered, and that's what really made me want to start playing with my vocals and channeling this weird, eerie vibe and start being creative with the music process.
That makes so much sense. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, Christian Death. Whenever I was in college and I was going to Bar Sinister, I had got to watch this DVD of Christian Death live, and the way that Roz was performing, I thought was really cool. And that sparked more creative interest, and of course opened this big trail to go off and explore more of this music.
Awesome. So what about you, Brady? How'd you get involved with this stuff?
Well, I guess I kind of got introduced to this style of music when I was probably the early 90s, when I was a kid, but my mom and dad would be playing, really it was just pop hits, but it's like new wave, synth pop stuff would come on. I really liked the melodies, the instrumentation. It was just, I like anything that has a hook, and catchiness really is kind of what sparked my interest. But in terms of actually, when I started composing music, it was probably a little bit later, and so it was mostly a diet of like grunge and industrial. And so when I saw the video on MTV of Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Life-changing.
Yeah, it was. And I was like, instantly in that moment, I was like, I gotta get a guitar. I gotta do that. That right there has so much energy, and you can just really feel it. And so from that point on, I was like, I knew I saw my dad's guitar in the closet. He never played it, the electric one. So I was like, hey, let's grab this, let's get it out. It was an old piece of shit that hardly even worked, but nonetheless, he was like, all right, let's play the acoustic, let's start on that. And so he taught me a few songs. And so guitar is kind of my main instrument that I learned to play music on and eventually compose. But yeah, after, I've kind of written music in a variety of genres over the years, but I've always loved the electronic style of music, and especially the 80s synthpop stuff. It's so great. And so I knew I'd always come back around to writing this style of music, but yeah, it happened around 2014.
And I think that's a great segue for like, how did this project come to be?
I actually, is it okay if I start? I'm sorry, I got excited.
Okay, all right. So don't apologize for anything you say on this interview, unless you say something like blatantly offensive, and believe me, I will tell you. Don't apologize for anything. This is your guys' show, all right? So let's get the full esoteric experience here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. So I had been really, really wanting to be a part of a band for a long time. I'd been like writing lyrics and doing a lot of stuff on my end, even practicing vocals, a lot of things trying to prep myself for an experience. I tried out for a couple bands. I used to really mess around with the bass guitar a lot, and Brady's band that he was in happened to have an audition for a bass player. So the way that musically we started working together, I auditioned for this bass spot. From there, I was able to kind of pitch the idea of doing a separate project.
You got your hooks in.
Yeah.
And we already know how Brady feels about a good hook.
Brady is the master of hooks. He can really make those earworms. He's a genius. So I pitched the idea. I sent some lyrics to him, just things I had scribbled and put together, and we kind of just started messing around with sound and slowly developed into something more. Initially, I was really, and I really felt that this project, I wanted to see it go really far. And I think that there was a lot of drive behind that, and it still is. So I was really focused on like the end, what I wanted to see play out in the end. And that's been my driving force, I think, throughout all of this. But it started out really innocent, just almost garage bandy.
Yeah, I would say the same. And in terms of, being in various bands over the years and hearing our buddies like, dude, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it never happens. Like I wouldn't say I was jaded from that, but at the same time, I kind of walked into it not expecting anything, and it was fun. It was something new, and we kind of, we talked about some of the artists we like in the scene, and it's such a wide umbrella, it's hard to categorize. But really, for me, like Depeche Mode is one of those bands that I just felt like it was super interesting in kind of every kind of way, from lyric standpoint to soundscape. They write, pop structure music. Really, it's synth pop. It's a lot of things, but kind of that's the structure I've followed, no matter what the genre is. And it's pretty simple, from like the Beatles, the formula, but I feel like you can take any kind of pop song and turn it into any genre that you want to. So kind of got off track there, but
it's all right.
But yeah, like we talked about the artists that we kind of like, and taking elements from that and just kind of pushing it through the songwriting process. We came up with a couple of demos that were, we thought had some potential, and so we just kept on kind of writing. It didn't take very long, and before you know it, we had enough content to call it an album. And the first album was self-produced, and it was really bad. I mean, I've recorded a lot over the years, but at the same time, I've always done it wrong, and so it was a learning experience. And yeah, it's what really kicked me off onto like paying more attention to production and trying to learn more.
So when you say it was really bad, it just didn't quite fit your idea of how it should sound, then how the songs had a lot more potential than the final result?
Yeah, and everybody kind of, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people go back to like the first album, like, wow, with what I know now, I really want to just rework the whole thing and try again. But I think you have to kind of let some things just lie.
I think there's beauty in that growth, because even going back and listening to it now, there's a lot of things vocally that whenever I listen to it, I can really pick apart what previously was there. However, in that time frame and in that state of where I was, I thought it sounded really good. But it like shows growth, and I think that's really beautiful whenever you are further down the line and then you listen to something that you thought was really good before, and you're like, wait, no, I can hear a lot of things here that needs to be shifted, or like this is off pitch to the max. But that's really choices. Well, yeah, it was absolutely a choice, because I was, at the time, I was trying to do more. I was trying to do kind of like a deathrock. I wanted to do like Skeletal Family, like Anne's voice, or I was also I was trying to mix like Anne's voice with Depeche Mode voice, and I think the problem is I didn't know my voice. I didn't know who I was yet, so it was super me just totally fucking around until like this recent album. I feel very comfortable and I feel like I'm in my zone. But at the very beginning, it was really just finding what my tone was and what my voice was.
See, that's kind of the thing I like about making an album when you don't know anything yet, is that's when at least a lot of the real artists out there are going to take the most risks, because they're just throwing themselves out there, throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. And the thing is that then you can go back to that, years later when you've had plenty of experience and go, okay, this was what I liked from that. Let's use this again now that we know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny that you mentioned like Skeletal Family and bands like that, because that's a thing that I kind of noticed when listening to the new album Alchemy. that I've heard similar styles of synth before, but then your vocals over top of it was just something I was not expecting. It sounded more like Anne or like Eva O or Switchblade Symphony was another. As soon as you said that you loved Switchblade Symphony, I was like, okay, it makes fucking sense now. Because yeah, like there's this blend that you don't normally get in synth pop. This sounds a lot more like a synth pop band making death rock, and like I don't know how you guys pulled it off, but you did, and it's great.
That's awesome. I'm glad
probably the best thing I've ever heard. I think I'm gonna get it framed and just like hang it in the studio.
I haven't heard that one before, but I mean, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Well, and that actually brings up a question for me, Brady, because you said that when all of us saw Smells Like Teen Spirit, we all immediately went out and bought a guitar and a flannel shirt. And you kind of mentioned that the guitar was still kind of your main love. Do you, when you're writing music for Esoterik, even though it's all synth pop, are you doing that at the keyboard, or are you still going to the guitar first to figure it out?
Back in the day, it was kind of a mix, but now that I'm so familiar with how it's going to sound like us. I usually will have ideas that come to mind. If I'm not close to my guitar, I'll just kind of the voice recorder, whether it's melodies, beats, lyrical ideas with the melody. And so, yeah, if I have the acoustic guitar, if I'm available, if that's available to me, I'll go ahead and work out a chord progression. Because it's really, like I said before, how I write is the pop structure in terms of kind of the basic root notes and then building off of that. So I'll have ideas, I'll work through it usually on acoustic. Sometimes I work through it all the way on acoustic, and then transpose everything. But usually once I have at least from a verse to a chorus in terms of chord structure, melody, that's when I'll go into the studio and lay down the root notes starting with drums and bass lines, and then kind of just build off there. So it's really fun and exciting in that sense, because if you have a whole a song that you're playing on acoustic, you already have the melody and everything, but it just turns into something so much different, so dynamic that I'm pretty much addicted to that.
See, that is so funny to me, because you have like, you guys couldn't see my face, just my grin widening as you spoke there, Brady, because it's interesting. A lot of synth pop bands out there, like Depeche Mode and Mesh, bands like that, start out very synthy and then slowly working guitar and get a lot more guitar heavy as the albums go on. And here you guys are starting from like a more, Allison's starting from nu metal and death rock roots, and you're constantly writing stuff on the guitar first and then making synth pop out of that. And that's such a backwards way of it, and I think that's another way that you get this sound that is synth pop, but it's also something a little bit more. And I'm really happy to get into to hearing about how this writing process and your inspirations work, because it makes so much sense now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird talking about it because I've never really thought about it, but yeah.
I don't think I've made the connections until we're talking about it right now. I don't think I've ever dissected it really.
Well, that's the thing. You are now on the Thinks Too Much channel. That's what happens on this show. is I can't shut the brain up, and it just kind of observations pour out.
That's good.
And now I'm not going to be able to use the same formula. And Esoterik is going to sound completely
You're doomed.
different. Think about that.
So
Pat hacked us. He's going in and recoding.
So the thing is, though, obviously it's working because I have gotten a lot of love in the Twitch chat so far. For instance, Fjordvik793 wants to point out that you two are his favorite band.
Aww.
Daredevil71120, I've seen you twice. You're amazing live, great music, and great people. Same thing from Swamp Hag 42069. How did I screw that one up? Lots of purple hearts in the screen. But then also, had a question from Fjordvik. How did you come up with the troll cross for the band emblem?
Okay, in a more pagan path, I work with nature spirits, and I've done so for a very long time. Trolls have a very special place in my heart, and I do realize the troll cross, it's usually, the way it's made is actually to ward off trolls. However, I've felt really drawn to it despite that. And it sounds odd, but I feel a very deep connection with the troll cross. And my eldest brother, James, he's a welder. And he does a lot of blacksmithing. He makes swords, he does chainmail, he does a lot of really cool stuff. And he had made a troll cross before I had told him about how much I love troll crosses. And my brother James and I kind of slowly made our own family emblem with a troll cross. And so it was kind of, I don't really know why the troll cross pops up as much and like why I feel so drawn to it, but I also don't fight that. So whenever given an opportunity to make an emblem, I wanted to do something that I felt really in love with, and the troll cross was something where I have a lot of really deep connections with it. It's also, in its own way,
I think it's kind of a symbol of protection.
It is. So, I'm sure you've seen like the hamzas, like the hand with the two thumbs on both sides.
Yeah.
Where it's like a ward, a protection ward, like an evil eye protection. And the best way I can sum up a troll cross is that it's similar in that aspect, that it protects the wearer who's wearing it. So ill ideas, ill intentions are sent back to the person who's directing that at you whenever you're wearing the troll cross.
Oh man, so if you make it as the band label, then that means that any critic that's gonna write a bad review for you guys is just screwed.
I don't know, maybe.
Excellent. That is a brilliant strategy.
But more, that is pretty sick. And that was not what, as much as I'd like to take the credit for that, it's more so
just go ahead and take credit for it. Just go.
Okay,
run with it. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, that was me. Wow.
Yeah. Nobody knew until this interview. It's fine. Just run with it.
Perfect. Sold. Keep hacking.
Wow, getting a lot. This is actually a pretty active chat tonight. So Swamp Hag 42069 asks, any plans for the Goblin Queen to return to YouTube? Now, before you answer this, I have not checked out your YouTube before, so I have no idea what they're even talking about. Goblin Queen ?
Okay, so let's see. 2011, I started my YouTube channel, and that's how I also ended up connecting to a lot of people within the scene. And it was a way that I was able to connect with people who thought similar to me whenever I felt very alone. and I really boosted myself on the goth subculture, and connecting with other people who dressed like me, looked like me, and had similar ideas. Because in Oklahoma, during this time frame, you know, the internet's not what it is today. And this was at like the beginning stages of YouTube as well. So I really wanted to not feel so alone, and I really wanted to not feel like I was the freak that people would paint me out to be. And so for my YouTube channel, I actually gained a lot of subscribers by connecting with people and being able to make us not feel like we're such outcasts, because you could find other people to connect with. Now, as far as returning to YouTube, probably around 2018, 2019, I had left YouTube after I had gained quite a considerable amount of subscribers. The reason I left was a lot of internal things that I hadn't addressed from my past, a lot of emotional situations I needed to come to terms with, and needed to have a counselor and things like that. A lot of stuff from my childhood that I needed to address and let go of and release back out into the universe. So within that time frame, I had a lot of other things happen, and I just haven't picked up my YouTube again. So yes, I do want to return to YouTube, and I would absolutely adore to start creating content again, 100%. But I also work in the medical field, and right now the medical field is...
How do you even have time for this interview tonight?
I got off work at 5:30, got home at 6. I changed really quick, and I'm here right now with you.
Good God.
Yeah, it's...
You put out an album during the pandemic, and you work in the medical field? How is that possible?
I got COVID.
Oh.
I got it really bad. In all seriousness, I got it really bad. I was at home for a full month, and I couldn't think clearly, really. But during that time frame of being home for that month, Brady and I were able to knock out a lot of the album on Alchemy.
Yeah, and I was unemployed for 9 months, so that left me time to, make all the other stuff and get ready for her to record vocals.
And I imagine Catastrophe did a good job of inspiring some kick-ass tunes, too.
Yeah, it was pretty great, actually.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard someone describe being unemployed and having COVID as that was pretty great, actually.
Well, considering, kind of the path I was on, like running myself into the ground for a corporate job, getting let go was a huge blessing. It was a good reset, and like I didn't have time to do anything except read and do creative things, and making an album was part of that. I think we had probably half of the album kind of tracked, but the last half just came in a matter of months. It was just about like not having to work and being able to focus on creative things.
So that's the first time, I'm guessing, that you've really had that much freedom all in one spot. Do you feel like it changed the way that you wrote this album as opposed to the other ones?
I wouldn't say it changed anything. It just accelerated the process, because it's same type of things. Inspiration strikes you. Instead of grabbing the acoustic guitar and recording it on phone, the idea, I was just going straight to the studio, and once you have that momentum going, everything just starts to pour out. It's kind of when you have to stop and go, that it just takes longer. It still happens, but it's not as organic, I guess you could say.
And I mean, yeah, I feel like any sort of organic flow to any creative process is just gonna, if not make it better, at least make it easier.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So we were talking about YouTube for a second. You guys have a lot of music videos out there. I remember looking into into Alchemy and finding just researching the album to find question asking and seeing that like 4 of the tracks already had videos for them, which was wild. And that's actually appropriate because we got a question from Daredevil 71120. What was your favorite music video to film?
I think Spirits Light the Way, because I was able to have Christian, my very dear friend, in it, Brady, obviously, and where we went is a park pretty close to where we live to film it, and we also got to include a store that was one of the first pagan stores that I would regularly go to, and he agreed to let us film within his store, which was really cool.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a nice experience, and there was a lot of magic while we were filming that. The energy was really good that whole session. And yeah, it was a really cool recording process. We were able to go out in this field area, and we actually did a lot of drumming for the scenes where we're dancing around in a circle out in this open field. And we were purely just vibing out to the drums. We didn't really have anything playing. So it was a lot of actual ritual moments, which was really cool. Even by the river, we were doing actual ritual stuff while they were filming, which was nice because now what I'm used to is being in a studio setup or being somewhere where you have like that music playing over what you're doing, and it's not that same authentic, like we're actually doing something and you guys are capturing what we're doing.
So it was a lot more candid.
Yes.
Yeah. And on the flip side, what's the most, not painful, but trying video shoot you've done?
For me, personally, probably Cup of Life, because it was very, very humid and hot. And where were we? What city were we in?
We were in Missouri. Tonka. I don't know if that's even right.
I think it is.
It was a state park where there's ruins. But we started at 5 in the morning just to capture the sunrise. And it turned out really cool because first scene, there's actually all this fog on the water because it was still cold out, but it was starting to warm up. So it was really a nice atmosphere. But as soon as the heat started, like it went to like 90, I don't know, it's upper 90s with high humidity. And
that is swamp weather there.
Yeah.
And we were actually where we were filming, I was on the edge of this lake. And it felt like a swamp. And I had a corset on. I had my hair teased, a ton of hairspray in. My makeup was fully done. And I happened to have a fan, which I incorporated into the music video. It wasn't supposed to be in the music video, but because my face was melting so rapidly, I was like having to fan myself while we were performing because it was so bad. Yeah.
It's part of the video now, guys.
It is. It's forever there. And you know what? It turned out okay. Like, I don't think anyone would guess the state that we were in, but it was pretty brutal.
See, that's the wonderful thing about these interviews is we learn all those things like, oh no, the fan was done on purpose. It was meant to symbolize this or that. No, it was just really fucking hot, guys.
It was fucking hot. I was dying.
So, I have been mostly exposed to like your studio music and your music videos, but what is it like to do an Esoterik live show?
Heaven. Oh man, I love performing live. I love touring. It feeds my soul so much. Being able to connect and share stories with people and make new friends that you would have never met otherwise. It's so sick. I suppose for me, a live show is like opening a circle, and everyone's here to share in this fun time. Everybody's there to have a good time, and I want to have a good time too. So let's all circulate that energy around and let it fill the whole space. And what I want from an Esoterik show is for everybody to feel welcomed, and I also want them to feel energized, at peace, and having a fun time. I want that dance energy. Yeah.
Say it better myself.
Yeah.
Well, too bad because you're gonna have to now because I've got a question for you on that one, Brady.
Right.
So, as kind of the one doing a lot of the synth work, there's kind of this possibility that you have that a lot of
In arts?
what there's this possibility you have that a lot of rock musicians don't have, where you've got live drums and that sort of thing, where you can actually try to make the recording or the live show sound as much like the recording as possible. Are you someone that tries to do that, or are there things that you do specifically to make the live show different?
I don't try to. I mean, with electronic music, you're sort of going to have that same essence, whether it's live or studio, just from the simple fact that you're going to have some playback in there. I would like to take more risk on shows in the future. I would love to, add a live drummer to the mix. But it's really more so about when you're touring, you want to keep it lean. What can you do tour-wise? So at some point, I'd love to have the resources to do that, especially with this album where the drums are kind of a mix between acoustic and electronic drums. So I could see that playing very well into the mix. But to answer your question, I try to keep it close to the studio version, but at the same time, when you have live vocals, it's gonna make the difference. We have a cat in the screen. All right. Distracted here for a second. This is Achilles.
The cat is always more important than anything I'm doing or saying.
And so we're going to add Achilles into the live set on this next tour. He's going to be playing some timpani drums. You wouldn't expect it, but
he does like to chill whenever we're practicing. He'll lay down right in front of us and just watch us practice.
To sum it up, though, I think it's we work with the resources we have available. Mm-hmm. I would like to do other things, but that would include different kind of completely different live setup in terms of how we play multiple tracks, and being able to change tempos even, that would be great. And so it's just more so, like I said, the resources, but I would I would love to if I had the time to spend a
Hear
little
that,
bit more.
Hear that, all you money bags people out there? Go ahead and fund Esoterik's experimentation into new live show paradigms.
That's right. Yeah, we don't take like lighting usually when we're on tour. So there's usually an essence to it that we bring to the equation, but usually we are reliant on whatever the venue has in terms of lights. We like to keep it as light as possible, even though I'm kind of heavy on the equipment end. When for instance, I remember the first tour we went on. It was the U.S. tour in 2014 with Nakmar, and getting there, and the tour manager. We had another keyboardist at this point, Austin, who's kind of got his own music stuff going on now. But the tour manager saw what we had, and he was like, "Holy shit!" Like, essentially, there's only so much space in a trailer when you're on tour with several bands, and as newbies, we were probably taking up too much space.
So, you threw a couple keyboards on a fire, and now you've been able to strip it down a little bit.
Yeah, essentially.
They were beast of keyboards.
No, I understand. I have one. The desk that I'm using here actually is my keyboard stand. Or not my stand, my case. It's like a giant case used for an old keyboard that I don't even own anymore. But like one of those cases that you could fit like a child in, not even a particularly small child.
I think we still have those cases. Those are the ones we tour with currently.
I mean, those things will stop bullets, though, so you know they're safe.
Like,
yeah.
You don't have to worry about your equipment getting fucked up whatsoever.
You run over the case, the keyboard will be fine. It's your car you have to worry about.
Yeah, or your body when it lands on your foot or something like that.
Or my mic stand if it rolls over on that.
Oh, like you need a mic stand. You've got arms. It's fine.
Oh, I don't use it very often. It's there for moral support. I look at it and it looks back at me. It's like, hey, you're doing good. Keep going.
That was my emotional support mic stand.
It is though. That's very true.
Get on the plane with us and we have to go that route.
I get an emotional support vest for my mic stand.
Get a little vest for him.
You guys don't understand. I really need him in the seat next to me. He really makes me feel safe.
The memes that have come out of this interview. So I think that leaves but one question left. Suppose that I have just checked out this interview after living under a rock for 20 years, and I'm really interested in hearing your music and supporting your band. Where do I find you guys?
Kind of all over the place.
I would say go to YouTube because you'll have some of the visual aspect.
Okay.
And I mean, not even this last album, but the album before, we had more videos, whether they're, full production or visualizers. So that kind of gives a good flavor of things.
All right. So Esoterik with a K.
With a K. The German way.
Find him on YouTube. New album is called Alchemy. Was there anything else that you all wanted to ask or say before I let you loose? It looks like the interview battery is running low, so.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been so nice talking to you. You're really easy to talk to, and I really appreciate this interview. It's very comforting.
It's my pleasure. Well, keep sending me music, and I'll keep playing it. Not a problem on that end there, and I'll love to have you all back sometime. For those of you that are checking out the show live, I am Pat66, and I've got another show coming up just a few minutes. The Afterparty Mix Show might feature something by Esoterik on there, just maybe. So stick around for that. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, we just told you to go check out Esoterik's YouTube, so you know what to do. You've got this. And everybody else, thanks for joining us.